you doing, Judith? Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself to start off with?
Yes, my name is Judith Turbyne. I'm currently the director here at Progressio Ireland, and I come here from having worked for a number of years in Latin America and the Caribbean for a number of other organisations. I worked for many years, over 9, in Honduras. I worked there in community development in the mountains around Lempira, which is in the north of the country. And then I worked post-Hurricane Mitch, sort of working in rehabilitation there. And then I managed the programme at a Caribbean and Central America level as well. So I have a lot of years of experience working in Central America, and in particular in Honduras, which I love very much.
And well, what do you think are the main development issues in Honduras?
Well, I mean, obviously it's always a tricky question because there's a number of areas that you could talk about, but I think there is a fundamental issue of poverty. Even though Honduras may have moved up a little bit in the ranks, it still is only sitting at around 106, I think, on the Human Development Index, which is not very high at all. It's also, there's really large inequalities within the country, which very much affects a large proportion of the population. And if you look at the sort of inequality indexes, it's quite frightening where Honduras is sitting at this moment in time. And approximately 20% of the population are still living on just more than $1 a day. So this has an effect on a number of issues across the country.
Okay. And what about the whole area of water, climate change and sustainable environment? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the key issues across Central America at the moment. If you look at weather patterns over Central America over the last 10 to 15 years, what you really see is a massive change in the predictability of these weather patterns. Climate change is bringing in different rainy seasons, less predictable rainy seasons, and this is really affecting the way farmers can sow, reap their crops, and there's lots of difficulties around that whole process. Add to that a very much increased number of sort of what you might call extreme weather events over that same period, and again you see that crops over the last 10 to 15 years have been severely affected, not just by large events like Hurricane Mitch, but flooding on years where you don't have major hurricanes. So it really has been a tricky time, and that's really a lot to do with climate change and the way the climate is shifting, the way the climate is changing, and I think you have to be really aware of the impact that's having. And then if you look further down at the way that's affecting some of the basic resources, and I think we're very interested here in Progressio Ireland in the issue of water, and if you look at the way that these changes are affecting water resources and the changes in population that are also occurring around the same time, you're finding a heightened level of scarcity of water in the cities, for instance, in Tegucigalpa, where in some households you might have water for a couple of hours, a couple of days a week, which is really not enough to live on. And out in the countryside, what you have is not enough access to resources for small farmers, and particularly the poorer farmers across Honduras, and a very unequal access to water and to other natural resources.
Okay, would you say that's one of the reasons why it's still so important for international development organizations to work in countries like Honduras and Central America, even though a lot of other organizations might have pulled out over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. I think there's good reasons why agencies have moved out. I mean, resources are scarce. There's very little money around. Least developed countries really do need a concentration of resources. But I think what you see in a country like Honduras and the neighbouring countries in Central America is a real need to continue investing in the very vibrant social movements that you have there, the very vibrant grassroots movements, the very vibrant civil society organisations that can actually make a difference and are making a difference both at a local level and at a national level. I think withdrawing actually puts these organisations in a very tricky situation, because it's not just about the money, it's also about the long-term solidarity, the working together with these organisations over decades to look for serious change. So you have the basic resource issues, you have the basic poverty, you have the basic difficulties, but it's also a question of long-term development, of solidarity and of long-term change, and I think that's why we need to continue to work in these countries.
And what's so special about Progressio's work?
Well, what's interesting, I think particularly about a place like Central America and particularly Honduras, is that you do have a number of organisations that are well placed to actually have an impact at a local level, but also at a regional and a national level, and beyond, at an international level. But sometimes to be able to do that work, they need a little bit of support, of capacity building, of long-term capacity support. And what Progressio does is it supports long-term skill development workers who will work with these organisations as they try to craft their own solutions to their local problems. And therefore it's a very important role. Yes, money is important, yes, resources, direct resources are important, but it's very important also to have that human development aspect in terms of actually building that human capacity, that human development capacity to make a difference. And that's where I think Progressio and Progressio Ireland can play a very big role.
Thank you very much.